son, I figured you were getting tired of me only doing videos in my apartment. So I thought I would get out and talk to you about certain things. And I brought a list. So last jet vlog I talked about, your interview. So after your interview, you're gonna have to wait for quite a long time, actually, to figure out if you got in or not. But eventually you will find out. And every consulate seems to work a little differently when it comes to this. But typically, you're gonna get an email first, and then you're gonna get snail mail. Unless you're me, in which case, the server's gonna break down just to spite you, and you're gonna have to wait an extra week just to figure out if you got in or not. So anyway, you're gonna get an email and figure it out. So if you got in, congratulations. But if you didn't get in, you know, if you have your heart set on jet, then you can reapply next year. And if you just want to go to Japan, there are many ways other than jet to get to Japan. So don't despair. There are definitely ways to go to Japan if you want to go to Japan. But if you've done any research on jet, which you should have, you're gonna find out really quick that jet is mostly in the countryside, in the Inaka. So if you want to live in a big city, you're probably better off not wasting your time with jet, because you're gonna be in the Inaka. If you're like me and you like the countryside and you actually dislike large cities, then this is probably a really good way to go. So you're gonna have to fill out a lot of forms and everything in the upcoming months, and so I suggest, just to make things easy on yourself, to get a big folder and just put all of your stuff in a folder so you have it all in one place. And I think overall you're going to be much happier with everything, because you're going to need to do an FBI background check and tax forms and keep copies and send copies and yada yada yada. You're going to get an email informing you of your placement. At least in my case, I got just the general placement first, which is Tokyo, and then later I found a more specific placement, which is the island I'm on now. So you're probably going to need to wait a little bit before finding out exactly where you're going to be. Norineko! Anyway, you're going to get your email, and then you're going to get your contract in the mail. And save your copy of your contract, even though you don't need to send it in or anything. It's good to have to reference. And then you will hopefully be contacted by your predecessor. And this is where you're really going to be able to start asking questions to like all of those like very specific things that you really wanted to know about when it comes to living in Japan that no one gave you any answers to, because every situation's different, blah 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 blah, whatever. And hopefully I'll have a good predecessor. I got really lucky, and I have an awesome predecessor who really helped me out a lot, and so that's cool. And then, you know, fly to Tokyo and have your orientation, and then you'll move to wherever it is you're moving, and the rest will be history. But, you know, even though every situation's different, I think that there are certain pieces of advice that are really important, so I'm going to give you my 2 cents on some of this stuff. First, they recommend that you bring 200,000 yen or $2,000 with you. And in my case, I think that this was really an imperative thing for me to do, and I'm glad I did, because I got here at the beginning of August and I won't get paid until September 15th. So I actually have about a month and a half before I get paid. And I had to do things. I've already had to pay rent, I've already had to pay electricity, I've already had to pay water, I got a cell phone, you know, an incon, so you got all of these, like, you know, expenses that are going to pile up, and it's really going to be useful, especially if you don't get paid for a while, to have that money to do those things. So keep that in mind. Also, this is another thing everyone says that you don't really think is going to be the case. You think you're going to get here and it's going to be wild and crazy from the very start, and there's no way you're going to have free time. And that's kind of true, but the days when you're at work, like at your Board of Education or at your desk in the school before school starts, and school starts beginning of September, those 3 weeks, and probably even afterwards, you are going to have a lot of free time. So bring English reading material. If you want to study Japanese, bring Japanese textbooks, yeah. But I, for one, cannot study Japanese for 8 hours a day, every single day. So bring English reading material, because believe me, you are going to run through that. I brought the big book about Takashi Miike films by Tom Mez, which is really, it's thick and it's big. And I read it in 2 days because I had that much free time. Granted, I read like kind of terrifyingly quickly. I read really quickly, but you're gonna go through your reading material quick, so bring that. Alright, so toiletries. Alright, so we all know Japanese people don't seem to use deodorant. My Japanese boyfriend, he doesn't use deodorant. He doesn't really seem to have a scent to him. People say that foreigners, Japanese people say that we gaijin smell like milk tea. But Hide doesn't really have a smell. So yeah, definitely bring your deodorant unless you want everyone to think you're really stinky. And as far as toiletries and stuff go, girls, I would really advise you to bring your hair care products with you and to think about the climate where you're going to be, because it's really humid here, and I don't typically really do much to my hair, but I really needed to like figure out what to do to my hair here in Oshima to prevent it from like just looking completely and utterly horrible. So think about, you know, what you're going to need to bring, because it's pretty confusing figuring out Japanese hair care products, because they're very, very different from the hair care products that you're going to see in other places. So bring your, you know, hair, whatever crap with you, girls, because it's a good idea to have it. And think about the climate. You know, I said this with hair care products, but think about the climate where you're going to be moving and what you're going to need. Because you've got the conflicting desire to pack as lightly as possible so you're not overburdened with moving. But then at the same time, like, you do have to live where you end up going. And for me on Oshima, it's not really like there's much shopping. So, you know, I need to bring the clothes that I have here. And I did pretty well. I was expecting it to be hot, but I definitely could have done better, especially after taking into consideration how differently Japanese girls dress from American girls. Like, in America, you know, showing like your shoulders and everything, that's fine, and that's not really risque at all. But here, that's really not very common. And so just, if you're comfortable with that and it doesn't really bother you to kind of be looked at like you're not dressed correctly, then whatever, it doesn't matter. But think about, like, you know, for girls, you know, is this too revealing? You know, am I showing cleavage? I don't have boobs, so I don't need to worry about the cleavage thing. But am I showing too much cleavage? Am I showing shoulders? Are my shorts too short? So just think about that as you're packing. And that brings me to another topic, shoes. So in Japan, you've got indoor shoes and you've got outdoor shoes. And you don't wear your indoor shoes outside and vice versa. So for me, I work at 2 senior high schools. And so I actually brought 2 pairs of indoor shoes with me to leave at those senior high schools. And then, you know, I wear them during the day and whatnot. So you're going to want to think, I know you've got limited space, but you're going to want to think about shoes for inside your schools. Similarly, indoor gym shoes and outdoor athletic shoes are not one and the same. So think about bringing shoes. And of course, prescription drugs. So girls, birth control, it's better to bring it in all at once and have it shipped to you every 2 months. So think about getting your yakan shome, filling out all the forms that you need to do for that. Because I think overall you're going to be more happy if you can just bring in all of your medication at once than having to have it mailed to you and all of that. It's a really big pain in the butt. And no matter what anyone says, it actually is very difficult to get birth control pills prescribed to you here in Japan. It's just a completely different culture when it comes to birth control and abortion and all of that. So think about bringing your birth control pills with you. And also, I guess, for guys or girls, American style condoms. Yeah.